The autumn leaves crunched beneath Ethan's boots as he made his way back to his cabin, arms laden with firewood. The forest had been his sanctuary for 3 years now, a place to escape the noise of city life and find peace and solitude. But the whimpering sound that cut through the quiet afternoon shattered that peace instantly. Behind a fallen oak tree, he found her. She was curled into a tight ball, her rust-colored fox ears pressed flat against her head, trembling. Her tail, thick and beautiful despite being matted with dirt, wrapped protectively around her thin frame. When she lifted her amber eyes to meet his, Ethan's breath caught. She wasn't human, but she wasn't entirely animal either. A fox girl, starving and desperate. "Hey," he said softly, setting down his firewood. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." She flinched when he approached, but hunger won over fear. Ethan carefully offered his hand, and when she didn't bolt, he made his decision. "Come on. Let's get you something to eat." Getting her to the cabin took patience. She followed at a distance, stopping every few steps to sniff the air or glance behind her nervously. Once inside, Ethan prepared a simple meal, grilled chicken, rice, and vegetables. The moment he set the plate down, she abandoned all caution and devoured it with a ferocity that made his chest tighten with sympathy. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer, couldn't answer, perhaps. But when she finished, she looked at him with such profound gratitude that something shifted in his chest. He offered her a blanket and gestured to the couch. "You can rest here tonight. We'll figure things out in the morning." That was his first mistake. When dawn broke, Ethan found her not on the couch, but curled up at the foot of his bed, her tail draped over her face. When he stirred, her ears perked up instantly, and she bounded up with an energy that contradicted her previous state of exhaustion. "Good morning!" Her voice was bright, musical, with a playful lilt that caught him off guard. So she could speak. "Morning," Ethan replied cautiously. "Feeling better?" "Much better. Your food was delicious." She stretched luxuriously, her tail swishing behind her. "I'm Kira, by one." "Thank you for saving me, Ethan." "How do you know my, never mind?" He rubbed his temples. "Listen, Kira, I'm glad you're feeling better, but what's for breakfast?" She was already padding toward the kitchen, nose twitching. "I smell coffee." "And is that bacon?" "Oh, you have eggs too." Ethan followed her, watching in amazement as she opened his refrigerator with the confidence of someone who lived there. "Kira, wait." "Don't worry, I'll cook," she announced cheerfully. "It's the least I can do." The chaos that followed involved nearly setting his kitchen towel on fire, using far too much butter, and somehow getting eggshell in everything. But when she presented him with a lopsided omelet and a brilliant smile, Ethan couldn't find it in himself to be annoyed. "So," he said carefully, taking a bite, "how long are you planning to stay?" Kira tilted her head, her fox ears twitching curiously. "Stay?" "Ethan, I'm not leaving. You fed me, so now I'm yours." "I'm, what?" Her grin turned mischievous. "You didn't know? When a foxkin accepts food from someone, it creates a bond. Especially when we're as grateful as I am." She leaned closer, her amber eyes gleaming with something between affection and playful challenge. "You're stuck with me now." Ethan stared at her, his coffee growing cold in his hands, and realized his peaceful solitary life had just become infinitely more complicated. The first week with Kira was absolute chaos. Ethan discovered that fox girls had no concept of personal boundaries. She followed him everywhere, to the woodpile, to the shower door, where he had to firmly establish privacy rules, even to the outhouse, chattering endlessly about everything she noticed. His quiet cabin had transformed into a whirlwind of energy and curiosity. "What's this do?" she'd ask, holding up his radio. "Why do you have so many books but no pictures? Can we go exploring? I smell something interesting by the creek." But the real challenge came at night. Kira absolutely refused to sleep anywhere but near him. The first night, he'd woken to find her pressed against his side, seeking warmth. When he gently tried to move her to the couch, she'd whimpered so pitifully that guilt forced him to relent. "This is temporary," he'd insisted. "Just until you're stronger." Of course, she agreed, but her satisfied smile suggested she knew better. On the 8th night, everything shifted. Ethan woke to find Kira trembling violently beside him, soft whimpers escaping her throat. Her ears were flat, her tail tucked tight against her body. "Kira?" He touched her shoulder gently. "Hey, what's wrong?" Her eyes snapped open, wild with fear, and for a moment she didn't seem to recognize him. Then awareness returned, and she buried her face against his chest, fingers clutching his shirt. "Nightmare," she whispered. "I was alone again. Starving. No one would help me." Something protective stirred in Ethan's chest. Without thinking, he wrapped his arms around her, one hand stroking her hair softly, careful of her sensitive ears. "You're safe now. I've got you." She pressed closer, and he felt her heartbeat gradually slow against him. "Promise you won't leave me?" "I promise." They stayed like that, wrapped together in the darkness, and Ethan realized with startling clarity that she wasn't just an inconvenience anymore. She was becoming important to him. As weeks passed, they fell into a rhythm. Kira learned to cook properly. Turns out Fox girls were quick learners when motivated. She'd present him with meals that actually tasted good, beaming with pride at his genuine praise. In return, he taught her to read, watching her face light up with wonder as words transformed into stories. One crisp afternoon, they sat by the fireplace, Kira nestled against his side as she practiced reading aloud. She stumbled over a word, and he leaned closer to help, acutely aware of her warmth, the subtle scent of pine and wildflowers that clung to her. "Ethan," she said softly, setting the book aside. "Yeah? Why did you help me?" "Really?" "Most humans would have, well, they wouldn't have done what you did." He considered her question, absently running his fingers through her hair. "I don't know. Maybe because I know what it's like to be lost. To need someone and have no one there." He paused. "After my divorce, I came out here to be alone. I thought I didn't need anyone." Kira shifted to face him, her amber eyes searching his. "And now? Now I'm realizing maybe I was wrong." His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing her skin. "Maybe I needed someone to remind me what connection feels like." She leaned into his touch, eyes fluttering closed. "I needed you too. More than just for food." When she opened her eyes again, there was vulnerability there that made his heart ache. "No one's ever been kind to me before. Not like you, Kira." She kissed him then, soft and tentative, asking permission even as she gave herself freely. Ethan responded without hesitation, pulling her closer, deepening the kiss with a tenderness that surprised them both. Her tail wrapped around them both, and when they finally pulled apart, breathless, she was smiling. "I'm definitely not leaving now," she whispered against his lips. "Good," he replied, kissing her again. "Because I don't want you to." Their relationship deepened over the following weeks, but Ethan noticed troubling signs. Sometimes Kira would stand at the window for hours, staring into the forest with an expression of longing mixed with fear. Other times, she'd wake screaming from nightmares she refused to discuss. "Tell me what's wrong," he urged one morning after finding her crying softly in the kitchen. "Please, Kira. Let me help." She wiped her tears, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's nothing. Just memories." "Of what?" For a long moment, she was silent. Then, finally, "My clan. The Foxkin village where I was born." Ethan pulled her into his arms, encouraging her to continue. "Foxkin society is complicated," she began haltingly. "We live in the deep forest, hidden from humans by magic. There are rules, strict rules, about who you can bond with, who you can love." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I broke those rules." "How?" "I fell in love with the wrong person. Someone my family deemed inappropriate because he wasn't from a powerful bloodline." She laughed bitterly. They arranged a mating for me instead, to someone cruel, someone I despised. When I refused, they... She trailed off, shuddering. They what, Kira? They cast me out. Stripped me of my connection to the clan's magic, which is why I was so weak when you found me. Without that connection, we fade. Slowly starve, no matter how much we eat, until we die alone. Horror and rage warred in Ethan's chest. That's barbaric. That's tradition. She pulled back to look at him, tears streaming down her face. But when you fed me, when you showed me kindness without expecting anything in return, it created a new bond. A human bond, which is different but just as powerful. You saved my life in more ways than you know. Ethan kissed her forehead, her cheeks, tasting her tears. I'm glad I found you. I'm glad you're here. There's more, she whispered. They'll come looking for me eventually. My family won't accept that I've bonded with a human. They'll try to take me back or... She couldn't finish the sentence. Let them try. His voice was steel. You're not alone anymore, Kira. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. She kissed him then with desperate passion, hands fisting in his shirt as if afraid he'd disappear. He responded in kind, lifting her onto the kitchen counter, positioning himself between her thighs as the kiss deepened into something hungry and needful. Ethan, she gasped against his mouth. I want. I need. I know. His hand slid beneath her shirt, feeling her shiver at his touch. I've got you. Always. They made love there in the morning light, slow and tender, every touch a promise, every kiss a vow. When they finally collapsed together, breathless and sated, Kira buried her face against his neck. I love you, she whispered. I think I have since that first day. I love you too, he replied, meaning it with every fiber of his being. We'll figure this out, Kira. Whatever your family throws at us, we'll handle it. Together. But even as he held her, Ethan felt the weight of approaching danger. Something was coming, he could feel it in the air, in the way the forest had grown unnaturally quiet. The storm was gathering, and he wasn't sure either of them was ready for what was coming. They came on a moonless night 3 weeks later. Ethan woke to Kira's panicked whisper, "They're here." Before he could react, the cabin door exploded inward. 5 foxkin poured through, 3 males and 2 females, all radiating an otherworldly power that made the air itself seem to shimmer. Their leader was a tall male with silver fur and cold, calculating eyes. Kira, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. You've caused quite the scandal. Running away, bonding with a human. He spat the last word like a curse. Kira stepped protectively in front of Ethan, though she was trembling. Daichi. I should have known they'd send you. Your father sent us to bring you home. To correct your mistake. Daichi's gaze slid to Ethan with barely concealed contempt. This attachment can be severed. Come willingly, and the human won't be harmed. No. Kira's voice was steady despite her fear. I'm not going back. I've made my choice. You don't have a choice. One of the females, blonde, with striking features, moved forward. You're betrothed to Daichi. That bond is sacred, approved by the elders. You can't just. I can, and I have. Kira's tail lashed behind her. I won't marry someone I don't love to satisfy tradition. Ethan moved to stand beside her, his hand finding hers. She said no. I think it's time you left. Daichi laughed, a cold, cruel sound. You think you have a say in this, human? You've stolen something that doesn't belong to you. We could kill you where you stand and face no consequences. Try it, Ethan said quietly, his free hand inching toward the rifle he kept near the door. Let's see how that works out for you. The tension in the room became palpable, magic crackling in the air like static electricity. The foxkin spread out, clearly preparing to fight. Ethan's fingers closed around the rifle, knowing it was probably useless against magical beings but unwilling to go down without fighting. Then Kira did something unexpected. She stepped forward, alone, her body beginning to glow with a soft amber light. You want to know why I chose him? Her voice resonated with power, power that shouldn't have been possible for someone cut off from her clan's magic. Because he saw me starving and dying and helped me without asking for anything in return. He showed me what real love looks like, selfless, kind, accepting. The light grew brighter, and Ethan watched in awe as ethereal flames began to dance along Kira's skin without burning her. You call yourselves superior, but you cast out anyone who doesn't conform to your narrow view of acceptability. You value power and bloodlines over genuine connection. Her eyes blazed. Ethan gave me something I never had in the clan, freedom to choose. And I choose him. The flames exploded outward in a wave that sent the foxkin stumbling backward. When the light faded, Kira stood transformed, her power fully awakened, no longer dependent on the clan's shared magic but burning with something uniquely her own. Daichi stared at her in shock. That's impossible. You were severed. How? True bonds create their own magic, Kira said softly. Stronger than anything tradition can offer. Now leave. Tell my father I'm not coming back. Ever. For a moment, Ethan thought they'd fight anyway. But something in Kira's transformed state gave even Daichi pause. With a frustrated snarl, he gestured to the others. This isn't over, he warned. The elders won't accept this. Then they'll have to learn, Kira replied calmly. They left as suddenly as they'd arrived, disappearing into the forest like smoke. The moment they were gone, Kira's power flickered and died. She swayed, and Ethan caught her before she fell. That was incredible, he breathed, carrying her to the couch. Are you okay? Exhausted, but yes. She smiled up at him tiredly. I didn't know I could do that. I think our bond is even stronger than I realized. He kissed her softly. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Right? Right, she agreed, pulling him down beside her. Together. As they lay entwined in the firelight, both knew this was just the beginning. But for now, they had each other, and that was enough. The winter that followed was the hardest and most beautiful of Ethan's life. Word of Kira's transformation spread through the Foxkin community like wildfire. Some viewed her as a traitor, others saw her as something revolutionary, proof that the old ways weren't the only path. A few younger Foxkin, those chafing under the strict traditions, began to seek them out. The first was a young male named Theo, barely 20, who'd been cast out for refusing an arranged mating. Then came Mira, a healer who dared to question the elders. One by one, they arrived, outcasts and rebels who'd heard about the fox girl who'd bonded with a human and awakened her own magic. Ethan's cabin became a sanctuary. We're building something, Kira said one evening as she watched their growing household from the porch. A new kind of clan. One based on choice instead of obligation. You okay with that? Ethan wrapped his arms around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. You wanted freedom, and now you're becoming a leader. She leaned back against him contentedly. It's different when people choose to follow you. I'm not forcing anyone to stay. They're here because they want to be. She turned in his arms, her amber eyes soft. Besides, I have you. Everything else is just extra. He kissed her deeply, pouring all his love into the gesture. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. Come on, she said, taking his hand. Everyone else is settling in for the night. We should too. Their bedroom had become a true sanctuary, a place where the chaos of the day melted away. Ethan closed the door behind them, watching as Kira began to undress with unselfconscious grace. The sight of her still took his breath away. What? She asked, catching his stare. Just thinking about how lucky I am, he said honestly. That day in the forest. I could have walked right past you. But you didn't. She crossed to him, nimble fingers working at his shirt buttons. You stopped. You cared. You saved me. Each statement was punctuated with a kiss, jaw, neck, collarbone. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you how grateful I am. They came together with the easy familiarity of lovers who'd learned each other's rhythms, but the passion never dimmed. Every touch was worship, every kiss a promise. When they finally lay tangled together afterward, sated and content, Kira traced patterns on his chest. "I heard from my mother today," she said quietly. Ethan tensed. "And?" "She wants to meet you. Properly. Without Daichi and the others." Kira smiled. I think she might be proud of me. In her own way. She said what I've done takes courage she never had. Will you see her?" "Maybe. Eventually." She propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at him seriously. "But my home is here now. With you. These outcasts who become our family. Whatever relationship I rebuild with my birth clan, it'll be on my terms." "I love you," Ethan said simply, because there were no other words adequate to express what he felt. "I love you too." She kissed him softly. "Forever, Ethan. You fed a starving fox girl, and she decided to keep you." "Best decision I ever made," he replied, pulling her close. Outside, snow began to fall, blanketing the forest in white. Inside, surrounded by their found family, Ethan and Kira had built something precious, a home based on love, acceptance, and the radical notion that sometimes the bonds we choose are stronger than the ones we're born into. Spring would bring new challenges. The Foxkin elders wouldn't give up easily, and building a new community from scattered outcasts had its own complications. But as Ethan held Kira close, listening to her steady breathing as she drifted off to sleep, he felt ready for whatever came next. He'd found his purpose in that forest clearing, not in solitude, but in connection. In saving someone else, he'd saved himself. And their story, he knew, was just beginning. Epilogue. 2 years later, Ethan stood at the edge of the forest, watching as 24 foxkin of various ages played in the clearing they transformed into a communal space. What had started as a handful of outcasts had grown into a thriving community, a bridge between human and foxkin worlds. Kira approached, now visibly pregnant with their first child, a miracle the healers had said shouldn't be possible between human and foxkin. But then again, nothing about their bond had been conventional. "Ready?" she asked, taking his hand. "Ready," he confirmed. Together, they walked toward the gathering where representatives from both worlds waited, including Kira's mother, who'd finally broken with tradition to acknowledge her daughter's new path. The negotiations would be long and difficult, but Kira had proven that change was possible. All because one cold autumn day, a lonely man had chosen kindness over indifference. As Kira squeezed his hand, her tail wrapping around his wrist affectionately, Ethan smiled. Yes, he'd fed a hungry fox girl lunch. And she'd given him an entire world in return.